Welcome back, baseball fans. We got third round draft results of the 1973-76 carryover league. Moving along swimmingly well. In the third round, Ohio added Tom Hall, and they also had the rights to Gene Clines. So another quality pitcher in Tom Hall. Gene Clines not so much, but he's depth in the outfield, fourth outfielder. Cardinals decided that they wanted to make a move in 75, and that would be to make Bob Forsch improve his card so he can pitch on 3 days rest. So he does that with a 2.86 ERA in 75. He's only 25 years old as well. So Forsch and Curtis and Gibson are now at the top three there, and you don't have to worry about Gibson not pitching on 3 days rest anymore. They all are very similar statistically. And they added Kenny Reit's rookie card, where he's a 1 at third base. That's great news. I don't think he's a rookie in this year. He's been in the league prior, but this is his first really good year defensively. So they got a 1 at third base now. Eventually they'll have Keith Hernandez as a 1 at first base at some point, you would think. The Yankees added 74 Sparky Lyle, no-brainer here, 1.66 ERA. They'll have this card for a couple years, and then after that they'll probably go to 76 or 77 Sparky Lyle. He's got a Cy Young in there. I believe in 77. They also when they drafted Nettles, they made a deal with Vegas and got Willie Randolph. I think I may have mentioned it last video. So Randolph will be playing second base. It did cost them a draft token because Randolph was slotted. He wasn't on the original Yankee protection list, so it cost the Yankees a draft token to get him back. Good news for Las Vegas. Florida has been making some moves. They got the Commissioner Award. They got their first 4 picks locked in here. Ellie Rodriguez in 74 and Veda Pinson. And when you look at this team, what they have to add is a player from 75. And then because they improved Ed Figueroa and Tom Bergmeyer, they have to find another guy from 74 and another guy from 75 after the draft ends in the token round of the draft, or undrafted free agency, signing guys off the street. That's the risk you take when you improve a player. But because they're almost done the draft, we're only in the third round, it gives them a lot of time to at least scout out who will be out there. Seattle, Matty Alou can still hit 296, and he's 500. He's only 34. You think he would have been older than that? He really piled up the hits in Pittsburgh, and this is his last year in baseball, and he hit 296, and then he's gone after this. They also added Tom Bradley, who the White Sox didn't want anymore, creating a hole in the White Sox rotation. The Dodgers selected 76 Bill Russell, and I think this is going to be the best Bill you'll find. A 2 shortstop, B Steeler, and he hits 274. That might be the ceiling right there, folks, at age 27. For the whole 15, 16-year career right there. That could be his best year ever. The Twins... this is pretty sweet. They had the rights to Dave Goltz. Now he can pitch on 3 days rest. And Vic Albury's stats, this is the case where the card plays in a way you like. His stats are 453 earned run average and a whip of 157. But he is the lefty who gets lefties out, and that's all we need him to do. Throw a ball with his left hand and get those lefties out of there. He gets knocked around by righties. Funny part about it is he had cards in all 4 years, and this was the highest ERA. So once this card is up, you can switch to these other cards, and theoretically he'd be better. Portland added Dick Bosman. Oh, they had a Ray Corbin 73 card. If you watch the Winter Baseball Classic, Corbin pitched very well in that, which is why we play the Winter Baseball Classic. You want to look at some of these fringe on the edge of the game players and see how well the cards play, as a reminder. Corbin's card played well, and I said, let's get it. Same thing will happen to Bill Hands later in this round. Okay, 75, California added a rookie. They needed an infielder. They moved on from Sandy Alomar. They moved on from Horace Clark, and now they get Jerry Remy. He's already got 629 plate appearances in his rookie year, hitting 258. Great base stealer, great defensive player, and he's left-handed. And lefties don't really bother him. Left-handed pitchers don't. So that's all wonderful for a 22-year-old second baseman. Padres added Mike Ivy, also a rookie from 75. Year 2 rookies, which is even better. I mean, it's easy to... let's scroll up here. It's easy to add the gray ones are year 1 rookies, so Lemon Bostock's hitting 323. He's definitely would have been drafted. Year 2 rookies, Jerry Remy was not picked last year, and Mike Ivy was not picked last year, and so they stayed an extra year in AAA, but Ivy versatility is what the Padres want. Third, first, and catcher. Eventually, he'll replace Nate Colbert, or he could replace Dave Roberts at third base, or he could be your catcher versus lefties. And eventually, he'll be a really good first baseman with a lot of power at the end of the decade before he leaves for San Francisco. Arizona, well, you know, they finally made some nice picks here. They had the rights to Ed Herman and Steve Stone. Interesting, Herman's an all-star for the White Sox in 74. We took him in 75 for the Yankees. He's just a little smidgen better. Gets that OPS over 700 to 719, over 250, 255. Pretty reasonable card for him. And Steve Stone throws over 200 innings. So he'll join Reggie Cleveland at the top of the Arizona rotation, pitching on 3 days rest. Milwaukee had their choice of which year for Don Wilson. They went with 73. 74, he walks too many guys. And who knows who Wilson will play for next year in his final year before his tragic end. They also added Steve Hovley in his final year. Good defensive outfield, reasonable good defensive outfielder. He used to be a 2 in center, now he's a 3 though. Houston adds Larry Dierker, 74 card for him, and they also took the Doug Rader in that same year. We wanted him as a 1, we wanted him over 250, and we wanted the highest slugging we could find, which is 415. He had 21 homers in 73, but the average was down. He has 17 homers, but the slugging is up, so go figure. Different amount of plate appearances. Cleveland making some nice picks. So Ramon Hernandez and Gaylord Perry. And then in 1975, change of the guard. We see some new guys. 2 second-year rookies, both debut simultaneously. Dwayne Kuiper, Rick Manning. Kuiper's 25, Manning's 20. What's so special about this is that both of these left-handed batters don't have much trouble with left-handed pitching. Love to see that out of a young player. That means you can play them every day. You don't need platoons. This code here, this number 3 and this 4, this means that was the 3rd highest batting average on the 75 Indians. 4th highest. I think the 2nd highest was Boog Powell. And the 1st was, I think, Rico Carty. Just trying to remember that. Toronto took Tim Foley. Tim's a little bit ticked because we could have took his 76 card when he had full-time power. That's right, folks. He had 6 homers, and Strat gave him power both ways. This season, he has 0 home runs, but he hits 254. The reason is 76 was already blocked. It was blocked by Doyle Alexander and Tom Underwood, so he has to settle for a 74 card. That's why we plan this stuff, and in a hierarchy, I'd rather have a really good Doyle Alexander and Tom Underwood versus a mild fluctuation on Tim Foley, who is pretty similar year to year. And that's how you kind of choose the appropriate year if you can. Colorado found another pitcher. This team, known for not caring about pitching and caring about home runs, found a really nice Dick Drago, Ron Reed, and a nice Rick Rodencar. Folks, the Dodgers farm system is getting pilfered, as we've seen Doug Rao go, Rick Roden go, Charlie Huff, well, the Dodgers got him. Hooten ended up with Toronto. Royce ended up in Portland. Dodgers aren't going to have any guys left. They'll have Sutton. Eventually, they'll have Bob Ebony Eyes Welch. And I don't know how the end of this decade is going to play out for the Dodgers. They may have to go out and trade for the dudes. But Colorado looks pretty reasonable here, at least pitching. All sub 350 earned run averages. The Phillies, take a look at 74 Pat Dobson. And you're like, that's 3 years after he was one of Baltimore's 20-game winners in 1971. Well, he's a Yankee. He's 32 years old. And old Pat's 19-game winner with a 3.07 ERA. Really nice card. 127 whip. So he'll be battling for the number 2 spot with Wayne Twitchell behind Steve Carlton. They also took Tony Taylor, who's 38 years old here, but he crushes left-handed pitching in a small sample. It's 328. Tony Taylor, 328. Small sample size, though, and he'll just be first or second against lefties, given Denny Doyle or Tim McCarver a day off. That's right, Tim McCarver's playing first base and catching when Bob Boone's not catching. Moving on, Kansas City took Lou Piniella. Now, actually, they extended his stay by 1 year before he turns into a Yankee. So once this Piniella contract is up, they'll just let him go to the Yankees or trade him to the Yankees. But they stole a year from the Yankees, and the Yankees, frankly, don't really care because their outfield is set with Roy White and Elliot Maddox and Bobby Mercer. So they took Piniella, and next round I think they're going to take Paul Splittorff. Pirates took Dave Justy. You know, Justy had a nice long run in Pittsburgh, believe it or not. He was an outstanding closer in 71 and 72. Now 73. ERA's up to 237, no biggie. Whip's a little high for him. It's 127. He'll still be the closer. He might get some help from Kent Colby, who they might bring up. Next up, Baltimore. Oh, a rookie in 75. So here's an interesting case where Tippy Martinez was still with the Yankees. Baltimore, New York made a big whopper of a trade. The crux of it was Kenny Holtzman went from Baltimore to the Yankees, and Tippy Martinez and some youngsters went from the Yankees to the Orioles, including Rick Dempsey. And those players will get World Series rings in the early 80s. But in this case, Baltimore just had the rights in the redraft to Tippy Martinez and just added him. So he's not the lefty closer now. They still have Grant Jackson to do that. He's just in the bullpen as a lefty setup guy. Not very good against right-handed pitching, so he's not reliable enough to be a closer at this point. Tigers took Mickey Lolich in 75, and that's because the homers went down. The ERA is 378, but now he's only given up 19 homers after ballooning up to 35 homers in 73 and 74. So hopefully keeping the ball in the park. By the way, Mickey Lolich is an E0 for the third consecutive year. Great fielding pitcher was Mickey Lolich, turns out. And Mickey Stanley, similar performance year in and year out, known more for his glove than his stick. He'll platoon with Norm Cash at first base, add some defense to Ron LaFleur in center field. Vegas, let's see what they did. Oh yeah, they added Woody Fryman. Fryman will be a staple for Las Vegas for the rest of his career. He's 36 now in 76, which means by the time he's in Montreal in 80-81, he'll be 40-41, and that's when he's Montreal's closer and is really outstanding. Right now, he's throwing 200 innings, and he joins Ken Brett and Jim Lomborg in the rotation. The Expos added Tom Walker to the bullpen, and the Expos have completed their pitching staff. So the remaining 4 spots will all be dedicated to offense. They're going to have Steve Rogers, Steve Ranko, Dan Worthen, and the other starters, Dave McNally. And in the bullpen, Tom Walker, Mickey Scott, Bob Reynolds, and Dale Murray, who are incredible relief fours. 3 of those 8 Expo pitchers have ERAs below 2. Dale Murray, Bob Reynolds, and Steve Rogers, believe it or not, in his rookie year. Sub-2 earned run average. Boston had a choice of which year to take Rick Wise. I was kind of torn on this because 73, he's a starter 8 for the Cardinals. But 76, he's a more effective pitcher for the Red Sox, but he's a starter 6. So I went with that because Tiant is a starter 9 and Bill Lee's a starter 8. So I think it's all right if Rick Wise can only go 6 innings. Not a big deal. It'll give Roger Moret something to do. He's been buried in the bullpen the last few years. Maybe he'll get some starts for the Red Sox. New York Mets making, as part of the deal for, and they really did some good stuff with the Tug McGraw trade. Sad to lose Tug McGraw, but the rationale was he wasn't very good with the Mets anymore, so he can go. They were able to get the lefty Max Garce. Okay. They're able to get Terry Harmon. He's a 295 hitting second baseman. And they upgraded Bob Apotica to a sub-3 ERA and Tony Saleta as well. So nice picks for the Mets. They're not done yet. They're going to move some cards around into different years in free agency. I already made some notes over here. I think Rusty Staub and Bob Apotica are planning on switching years, which would benefit both players. That's something we can do in undrafted free agency. A lot of times that's not feasible, but when you see it, you really want to jump on it, because it helps you twice. I guess. I mentioned Bill Hands earlier. He pitched really well in the Winter Baseball Classic videos, and I think his team won it all. He's got a 3.49 ERA. The only drag on his card, he's a starter 5 instead of a starter 6 or 7. So that's problematic. Not a big deal for a Ranger team that's not much is expected of them anyway, really. They also added Frank Howard, so he will complete the full tenure with either the Washington Senators or the Texas Rangers. We thought about moving him to a different team. Turns out he'll do the whole career here in Texas. He never did play for the Texas Rangers, by the way. He went from the Washington Senators to the Detroit Tigers. That's a lot of fun. I was thinking about trading him to Detroit to platoon with Norm Cash. He actually did platoon with Norm Cash in the Winter Baseball Classic. They both played for the Mississippi franchise that went to the semifinals. Atlanta added a really nice Ron Schuler card in 76. This is a case where you steal from a division rival. Schuler was a starter, but then he went to the bullpen for Philadelphia and became a much more effective pitcher with a 2.90 ERA. Great news for Atlanta. Same thing happened with George Stone. He had great success with the Mets, but he's on Atlanta. So guys who found success on division rivals, Atlanta has held on to. Oh, the Cubs are, wow. I don't know who's ace in the draft, but the Cubs' every move here is a killer. Literally, the 6th guy they added was the Bruce Sutter rookie card of 1976. Now, he's got 10 saves. And he's out. I mean, he's very, very good. 77, he's ridiculous, of course. But they get this card at 23, and then they'll bump up to a 77 card next year. They got Rick Russell's best card with the Cubs, the 3.46 ERA on 3 days rest. Jose Carnell's best card. Billy Williams' last good card. He incrementally gets worse every year. Plays all the way through to 76. May or may not finish that tenure out with the Cubs. We'll have to see how fast he degrades with those other cards. And Ron Santo, talk about Bill Madlock playing third base. Well, Ron Santo, he's a 2. He's a 2E22. Madlock's 326. Madlock's got to be DH. What an embarrassment of riches the Cubs have. And just put them in another division. I mean, literally, the Reds, the Pirates, and the Cubs might be the 3 best teams in the National League. They're all in the same division. One of the expansion teams in the Mountain Time Zone goes to the playoffs every year and robs a precious playoff spot. We have seen those 3 teams make the playoffs. It happened, I think, 2 years ago. Pittsburgh didn't make it last year. The Cubs did make it. So there's that. A little change of history. Their southern neighbor to the Southsiders, the White Sox. Oh, boy. They lost. They weren't interested in Carlos May anymore. You know, Carlos May had a great 72. They were tired of him. So they found Lamar Johnson, 320. His 76 debut is a 320 card, which is the highest average on the team because George Orta and Dick Allen both hitting 316. And unfortunately for the White Sox, they may have to stick him out in left field this year, which is a harbinger of things to come for Chicago, because by the end of the decade, folks, the Chicago White Sox couldn't catch a can of olives if you handed it to them. I mean, balls are just ricocheting off disco records in the outfield. We're talking, I mean, they had Soderholm and Jim Morrison and a really old Richie Zisk and Oscar Gamble out there, and man, they could not catch a thing hit to them. They're one of the worst defenses ever. Well, they got to figure out what to do so Lamar comes out of the game before that defense kills his team. They might have to go find Chet Lemon and pull him out of the minor leagues just for his glove. Chet Lemon's a good defensive player, but his bat's not ready. The Giants, are we doing Jim Barr? Yeah. So if you're wondering about the Giants, they're the third best team in the entire league, according to this, because you got the Reds in Oakland next. So they have their 73 best pitcher, Ron Bryant, won 24 games. They have their 74 best pitcher, Jim Barr. They have their 75 best pitcher, John Montefiasco. And they have Juan Marichal, who's still good as the number 4 starter. For a team that found yet another center fielder, Von Joshua, in the second round as a .318 hitting center fielder, replacing Ken Henderson, replacing Gary Maddox, replacing Willie Mays, replacing Bobby Bonds. You get the idea. Don't know how the Giants managed to gob the 1970s up, but the talent was there, folks. And I get Cincinnati and the Dodgers were also in that division, had more talent. I guess in a real life situation, the Giants are sort of like what the Cubs are in my situation, where the Cubs are seemingly behind the Reds and Pirates. The Giants in the 1970s were seemingly behind the Reds and Dodgers every year with no clear path to the playoffs, with a lot of talent, at least in the outfield and starting pitching. Or it could be Candlestick Park made it miserable for hitters, visiting hitters, and that's why the pitching was so good. Anyway, let's move on to the Big Red Machine. Well, we got these picks done in 74 because Cincinnati wasn't good in 74. Clay Carroll and Pedro Bourboin. This is a case where could they have found better guys? Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, they possibly could have. But history says they went with Carroll and Bourboin. Those were Sparky's guys, even though statistically, there's nothing really special about these guys. I think if the Reds do fail this year, it could very well be that bullpen that they prided themselves on. So, just saying, they got the greatest offense in the sport. Starting pitching is very good. Defense is amazing. But you got Fred Norman's moved to the bullpen. Unless they find another reliever, a lefty reliever, then he can go back into the rotation. Clay Carroll, Bourboin, and that's it. They don't have anybody else. Oakland. Oh, yeah. Oakland. They had a Mike Torres. These were their 4 keepers. This is 3/4 of the new rotation for the defending champs. You have Catfish Hunter with a 2.49 ERA, Kenny Olson with a 2.97 ERA. The number 3 starter will be 29-year-old Mike Torres. So think about this career trajectory. 75, well, prior to 75, I don't know where he was. He was with Montreal or Houston, I don't know. But 75, he gets traded or signed by Baltimore. He wins 20 games. So what happens? Baltimore doesn't want him anymore, and he ends up going to Oakland. He's 29 with Oakland with a 2.50 ERA. And then what happens? Well, he ends up with the New York Yankees, and he's pitching Game 7 of the World Series and throws a complete game and gets a World Series ring. So that's the interesting career of Mike Torres. And in this case, he could get a World Series ring with the Dynasty A's as a number 3 starter. He basically replaces Don Wilson, who was traded. They traded Don Wilson and Al Downing for Mike Torres. And those 2 guys were traded for Vida Blue, coming off a 71 season. So that is the first 3 rounds of the draft. We'll see what we do with broadcasting the 4th round or not. The 4th round is always a lot of fun because we finally know which box the team has to pick from. It's the year that's missing. If you look at the top, these are all considered first-round picks in different years. See the ones, and these are the second player picked in those years. So we know the Ohio players took a 73, a 74, and a 76. So they have to open up the 75 box and find their player. The Cardinals have to open the 74 box, find their players. Yankees 75, and so on. The one team here, Florida, who won the Commissioner Award, already plugged that hole, and they can go anywhere. They were. If you follow the previous video, winners of the Commissioner Award get a compensation pick between the first and second round. So Florida will be finishing the draft sooner than everybody else. All right, that's it today for the third round of the 73 Winter Baseball, the 73-76 Carryover League draft. Hope you're enjoying the analysis. We'll see you next time.